I think what we're going to end up with is having votes on a number of choices. The ability for states to opt in to some kind of not-for-profit plan, the ability for states to opt out, and then the option to trigger a not-for-profit plan.
Obama ally Claire McCaskill on This Week Yesterday, making clear there aren't 60 votes for any one plan just yet.
And she mentions 3 options. Let's guess that there's going to be a couple more amendments than just that. Top Line starts right now.
Hello and welcome to ABCNews.com's Top Line. I'm David Chalian.
And I'm Rick Klein.
Each weekday we're bringing you the very latest political headlines, reporting, insight, analysis, everything you need and want to know about politics.
And keep these great 15 minutes going all day long. It's twitter.com/thenote. Be part of that conversation.
Kick the week off, sir. What is your top line today?
Option play. It is almost bill time, not quite yet, in the House and the Senate, and all the momentum is moving towards some kind of a public option. That is a surprise, obviously, from a few weeks back when a lot of people thought it was dead. But no matter what form it takes, it looks like it's not going to be as pure as liberals want it to be. It's going to be either a trigger or an opt-in or an opt-out, as Senator McCaskill mentioned. So there's going to be a good deal of tension to work out inside the Democratic Party still.
Senator Schumer was saying yesterday they are very close to 60 votes, he thinks, for his opt-out plan. But the fact that Claire McCaskill is still throwing in trigger there, and the fact that the White House has invested so much time in Olympia Snow, it seems to me that the trigger option is still very much alive as well. National emergency. That is what President Obama declared the H1N1 virus to be this weekend. This is to free up some funding, Rick, for the states and to make the process a little more smooth. But the vaccine has been causing a lot of concern out there in the country because it hasn't been as readily available as people anticipated, as the administration anticipated. Secretary Sebelius out on the morning shows this morning pleading patience with the American people.
You know, and as much as we talk about health care and the health care bill, this is the issue that has huge political implications. If an administration mishandles something like the H1N1 flu, that is where you see some real reverberations throughout the political landscape. Violent turn, fresh round of violence in both Iraq and Afghanistan again highlights the dilemma that President Obama is in. He's a month deep into trying to strategize around what to do in the Afghanistan war. We continue to see events on the ground overtake the policy deliberations. We know that this isn't happening in a vacuum, and signs are that President Obama edging towards some kind of a troop buildup in Afghanistan. Of course, the last troop buildup hasn't even happened or hasn't even fully happened yet, but the idea of him trying to build some more, and when you see more violent episodes like this, it takes away some of his options.
No doubt, and you saw Russ Feingold on his left out there again this weekend saying that he's going to lead the charge to try to halt any kind of troop buildup. It'll be a fascinating development within the Democratic ranks. And finally, home stretch. It's the final week of campaign 2009. We've got 2 key gubernatorial contests in Virginia and New Jersey. Polls show a tough race for the Democrats in Virginia and perhaps a better opportunity there in New Jersey, and that key special election up in upstate New York, which is sort of splitting the Republican Party right now.
That's right, and it could be a big day for independents. Watch those indies.
We're going to begin with the governor's race. The whole show today dedicated to these 2 governor's races and what it means for the future in the political climate. We're joined by the executive director of the Democratic Governors Association first, Nathan Daschle. Thank you for being here, sir.
Thanks for having me.
Let me begin with Virginia, if I may. Last Friday in the Washington Post, we saw a lot of blind quotes from White House advisors basically throwing Creed Deeds under the bus, saying that the Deeds campaign didn't follow advice offered by the White House about sort of embracing Obama a bit more. You have talked in the past about this idea of where Obama could be helpful with these surge voters, these 500,000 voters that have been registered in the last couple of years, youth voters, that whole sort of Obama thing. Has the Deeds campaign, do you agree with that assessment that we saw from some White House aides that the Deeds campaign miscalculated here with using Obama not quite as efficiently as they perhaps should have?
You know, this is what I know. The White House has been fully supportive of the Deeds campaign. I think the White House has done everything the Deeds campaign has asked. And the reason is that they know Creed Deeds is the best person to be governor of that state. And the contrast between Creed Deeds and Bob McDonnell could not be more clear. There's one candidate who wants to take Virginia backward. There's one candidate who put his social ideology first. There's another candidate who's going to be honest with Virginians, who's going to look them in the eye and tell them what they need to hear on education and transportation and jobs, and that's Creed Deeds.
But has the Deeds campaign done everything the White House thought it should do? You have the opportunity to build on some of the victories in Virginia.
You know, I think the answer is yes. You know, there's been, in my view, a seamless partnership between Creed Deeds and the White House. Now, Creed has made it clear that he's his own man, and I think that's right. He is. He's somebody who thinks independently, and he's always going to do what's best for Virginia. But President Obama is going to come back into the state. I think he'll be a terrific help with those areas where Creed is still underperforming in the polls. And look, he's got a little bit of ground to make up in the polls. We understand that. But we know this. We know Crease closes very strong. We know that Northern Virginia voters break late. And we know that the pockets of voters where Crease still needs to perform better are areas where President Obama can help with African-American voters and those Northern Virginia voters. So if I were Bob McDonnell, I'd still be pretty nervous.
Creedi's already sort of gave a hint to the fact, if he were to lose, that in part it might be because of the national environment. I want to take you, let you listen to a piece of what he said on WJLA, our affiliate, a couple weeks ago.
Frankly, a lot of what's going on in Washington has made it very tough, and we had a very tough August because people were just uncomfortable with the spending. They were uncomfortable with a lot of what was going, a lot of noise that was coming out of Washington, D.C.
Your candidate here basically says it is right to look at the Virginia governor race results through a sort of national lens and sort of what that means, I guess, for the Democratic Party going forward in 2010. You agree with that?
You know, I think that a lot of people want to look at these races and say, what does this mean for President Obama or for the Democratic Party? I think the much more compelling analysis is what does it mean for the Republicans? Republicans have won, or the party out of power has won this seat every election since 1973. They won New Jersey every election since 1985. Going into this year, there's a 5-election streak where the party out of power has won both of these races. If this Republican Party fails to win both, it'll tell us a lot about where they are. It'll tell us a lot about their ideas, about their leaders, and about whether America wants a Republican comeback.
Let's talk about New Jersey. Governor Corzine was considered to be a long shot for re-election by a lot of folks. It seems like he's making something of a comeback, helped by a third-party candidate. Is there a broader lesson there for you about how a governor, an incumbent governor, can take some of the flack that you're getting in these tough economic times and maybe translate that message out?
It is a tough time to be a governor. You know, 5-6 years ago when governors had surpluses and they got to say yes to a lot of people, it's a lot easier to be popular. Now when you have to say no, it's more difficult. And Governor Corzine has shown that when you're a tough leader, when you have to make tough decisions in tough times, they can cost you politically. But what also shows is that that type of leadership is rewarded in the long run. And as you're absolutely right, the polls showed a very tough road ahead for Governor Corzine. In the spring, he was down by double digits. There's a new poll out this morning that shows him with a 9-point lead in this race.
But shouldn't a Democrat win New Jersey big? I mean, this is a Democratic state for all intents and purposes. It's different than Virginia. New Jersey is a Democratic state.
It absolutely is a Democratic state, and I think part of the reason Chris Christie is losing is because he's chosen to be a Bush Republican. He's chosen positions that are well outside the mainstream of New Jersey, whether it's education, what he calls pre-education babysitting, what's healthcare. He wants to let insurance companies drop mammogram coverage. These are issues, and he's chosen to be outside of the mainstream. But keep in mind, Rick, that again, the party out of power has won this race every year since '85, and that was true even when Bill Clinton was president.
Would John Corzine have even had a shot in this race were it not for Chris Daggett, the independent candidate?
Yes. The answer, that is yes. The polls show that Chris Daggett polled Christie voters initially. There's no question that he rose from Christie's ashes. Christie crumbled as a candidate. Christie voters started to migrate to Chris Daggett. But what's really compelling over the last few weeks is when you look at the second choice voters, or second choice of Daggett voters, is that it's John Corzine. And in this most recent poll, Daggett's down at 7, and Corzine has a 9-point lead. What that shows is that voters who moved from Christie to Daggett are now coming back home to Corzine.
Nathan Daschle, the Executive Director of the Democratic Governors Association. Good luck to you, next week. We're going to be joined in just a moment from the other side of the aisle, his counterpart at the Republican Governors Association. First, we want to give you a little Friday night humor. The First Lady, Michelle Obama, was on the Jay Leno show, and he posed her a quick trivia question. She handled it pretty well.
Can you name all 6 Brady Bunch kids in 10 seconds? Let's start the clock right now.
All right. Greg, Peter, Bobby, Marcia, Jan, Cindy, and then there was that little kid, Oliver, that came in late to the game.
Wow.
I think I should get a bonus point for Oliver.